I live in Seattle, Washington, in a simple apartment. It's not big, but it's mine. And that's always given me this strange sense of victory. Like when you spend years hearing you're incapable, and suddenly you manage to do something normal, like paying your own bills. Sometimes I think about that when I'm sitting on the couch after work, feeling that mix of exhaustion and relief that only people who live alone really understand. I work in a small office near downtown. Nothing glamorous, but it's stable, and I like the environment. The only detail is that my anxiety insists on settling in there too. It shows up without knocking. A tightness in my chest, a feeling that something's about to go wrong, short breath. But compared to what I lived through at home for so many years, my anxiety actually feels almost too familiar. I grew up in a big house in Spokane, Washington. I always heard people comment on how our family seemed so put together. I'd laugh on the inside, because inside that house, there was only order when it came to who mattered and who didn't. I learned early where I fit in, at the bottom of the list. I remember once, I must have been around 10, and my sister, the darling of the house, the star, had just had a huge birthday party. I thought I could help set the table and ended up dropping a tray of cupcakes by accident. My mom gave me a look I never forgot. It wasn't just anger. It was contempt, pure and simple. "Why can't you be like your sister?" she said while I tried to clean the floor and swallow my tears. My sister stood to the side, watching, with that look of someone who's on the winning team. And that's how it was. She was always on the winning team. My sister Caroline was born with that special glow, or at least that's how everyone always described it. My parents talked about Caroline like she'd been crafted by God's own hands, and I'd come out of some defective factory batch. I got used to being the person who goes to her room when the conversations get lively, the one who walks more quietly so she doesn't bother anyone. My anxiety attacks didn't come out of nowhere. They grew inside that house. Sometimes, when I'm lying in bed staring at the ceiling, I catch myself replaying old scenes like saved videos in my memory. I see myself younger, sitting in the backseat of the car while my parents argue about Caroline's schedule. Recitals, competitions, events, everything that needed investment. I'd stay quiet, trying to imagine where I fit into that life that revolved around someone else. And maybe the craziest part is that even knowing all of this, I still always tried to be someone they could be proud of. I studied, got a job, moved out, got better. But none of that ever really counted. My parents preferred to tell people that Caroline was a natural talent. Me, I was the other daughter. And for a long time, I accepted that. Until things started to change, not because I wanted them to, but because life shoved me. But that comes later. The discovery didn't come in some dramatic way, just a casual conversation during lunch. It was a Friday, around 1 in the afternoon, and I was eating a cold sandwich in the office break room when I got a message from my cousin, the only person in the family who still talks to me like I'm human. The message said, "Have you already decided what you're going to wear to your parents' event? It's going to be super fancy." It took me a few seconds to process. I read it again, and again, until I answered, "What event?" She sent a voice message right after, talking about the vow renewal my parents were having in Seattle, complete with a formal dinner, photographers, and guests. The kind of event my mom always dreamed of, full of lights, expensive clothes, and that air of, "Look how perfect our family is." I laughed, out of nerves, out of disbelief. That's when my cousin realized from my tone, or from my silence, that I didn't know anything about it. She asked, "They didn't invite you?" All I could answer was, "I guess not." That old feeling rushed back at once. The same feeling I had when I was a kid and my mom would tell me to stay out of the pictures. Just this once. I told my cousin I'd sort it out and ended the conversation. When it hit 7 in the evening, after work, I got in my car and called my parents' house. My mom picked up, and just from the way she said hello, I could hear the tired tone in her voice. Not sad, impatient. "Mom, why wasn't I invited to the vow renewal?" Silence. Long silence. She let out a sigh that sounded almost annoyed. "Oh, that. Your sister was in charge of the invitations. I don't know why you're making a big deal out of this. I just want to understand why no one told me anything." My voice cracked a little, but I held it together. "It's your vow renewal. I'm part of the family, at least on paper." She laughed. "You don't get it, do you? It's not that you couldn't come. It just wouldn't be appropriate. You don't do well with big events. Everybody knows that. So you decided I would be an embarrassment. Is that it, Mom?" "Don't put words in my mouth," she snapped. "But honestly, you've always been difficult. The last thing I wanted was you having a full-blown anxiety attack in front of 200 people. Mom, I don't have attacks all the time. I just have anxiety. I'm not some social monster. Look, she cut in. I already have too much to deal with your sister. She's putting a lot into this, and I didn't want to have to deal with you ruining everything. You need to accept our decision. I knew it was hurting me, but I still asked. And Dad? He agreed with this? She hesitated for half a second, and half a second from my mom is already a confession. Your father didn't want to discuss it. In other words, he knew, and he stayed quiet. Again. My dad was always like that, a presence that only showed up to mow the lawn, pay bills, and maintain the comfortable silence my mom enjoyed. I hung up without saying goodbye. She didn't either. The next day, still pissed off, I went to their house in Seattle. I drove for hours listening to podcasts without absorbing any of it, trying to convince myself I was overreacting. But when I pulled up in front of the house, I felt this instant wave of nausea. I walked in without knocking. My mom was in the kitchen. Seriously, you just show up like this? Without warning? She said, stirring a pot. I want to talk to you, both of you. My dad walked into the kitchen slowly, like someone who can feel something about to blow up. He avoided my eyes, as always. Dad, I said, why didn't you say anything about me not being invited? He kept his eyes fixed on the floor. It was your mother's decision, and your sister's. I didn't want to interfere. My mom turned to me, annoyed. You're making a big fuss. No one excluded you out of malice. We just wanted to avoid an uncomfortable situation, for you and for us. You've always been more unstable. Unstable? I repeated. Mom, I don't destroy parties. I don't attack people. I just get anxious. That's not a crime. She laughed again. Sweetheart, we just don't want to repeat past embarrassments. You barely know me. You never tried. You always cared more about Caroline than about me. My mom shrugged. My dad said nothing. Not a word. Not a, that's enough. Not a, don't talk to her like that. I walked out of the house without looking back, and that brought back an old memory. The first time I understood that my family wasn't just dysfunctional, it was rotten on the inside. It had happened years before, on a random Friday. I'd had a long week at work, my head pounding the way it always does when anxiety and exhaustion hit. I had set up a date with a guy I met on an app. Nothing serious, just to try and get out of my routine. We agreed to go to a restaurant out of town, in Tacoma, because he worked there and it just seemed more practical. I remember leaving my apartment at 6:30 p.m. When I got to the restaurant parking lot, I sat in my car for a few minutes, taking deep breaths to try and control my anxiety. That's when I saw it. A familiar car. Too familiar. It was my dad's car. At first, I thought I was imagining things. I blinked, checked the plate again, got out of my car to see better. It made no sense for him to be there. He had no reason to drive to Tacoma on a Friday night. My mom always said he hated leaving the house after work. When I got closer, still trying to find some logical explanation, I saw two faces inside the car, my dad and a woman. They were leaning toward each other, and when I got closer, I realized it was a kiss. A long, intimate kiss. So natural, like they'd been doing that for years. My heart froze. When they saw me, they both pulled away so fast it looked like a bad movie scene. The woman opened the car door first. She had a tired face, pretty, but worn out. She started, but didn't finish. I think she was trying to remember my name, because I'm sure she knew me from pictures or stories. My dad got out of the car right after, with that "this isn't happening" look on his face. But as usual, without enough courage to say anything useful. I was too shocked. All I could manage to ask was, "What is going on?" My dad stayed silent, staring at the ground. "Can we talk?" she said. "Just 5 minutes. Please." I should have left. She led me back into the car. My dad stayed outside, pacing in circles, rubbing his face. Inside the car, the woman took a deep breath and spoke slowly. "I didn't want it to be like this, but I think you deserve to know the truth." She told me everything. Everything. That they'd been seeing each other for years. That my dad said he didn't love my mom anymore. That he kept talking about asking for a divorce someday. That he said life with my mom had been a series of obligations, not choices. That their marriage started because of family pressure. And that, in his version, my sister's very early birth, the favorite, was the reason they stayed together, while I had always been a burden, a mistake, something that trapped him even more. Suddenly, so many things I never talked about with anyone started to make sense. My mom's harshness, my dad's apathy, the blatant favoritism. I went quiet. I felt a mix of disgust, pity, and a rage that burned through me from the inside. She kept talking, like she wanted to justify everything. Look, I know it sounds awful, but your father isn't happy. He always says he doesn't know how to handle conflict. When I finally got out of the car, he tried to talk to me, but all I could say was, "Don't count on my help. Don't drag me into this." And I left. I drove back to Seattle and canceled my date. When I got home, it was already past 11, and I couldn't think about anything except the disgusting truth that was now in my hands. In the days that followed, no one brought it up. Not him, not the mistress, not me. We stayed in a silent pact. I knew the secret, he knew I knew, and no one was going to touch it. If my parents never cared about me, why should I get involved? Why should I worry about the stability of a marriage that never made space for me? I didn't tell anyone. Not because I wanted to protect my dad, but because I didn't want to be involved. Only the secret didn't stay quiet. It had a will of its own. The first message from the mistress came about 2 weeks later. It was late at night, almost 10, and I was lying in bed trying to sleep when my phone buzzed. "Hey, can I ask you something?" the message said. It was her. I hesitated. I thought about ignoring it, thought about blocking her, thought about changing my number and pretending I didn't exist. But curiosity won, and I answered, "Sure." She wrote, "Did your dad say anything about telling your mom the truth?" That made my stomach flip instantly. She kept going. "We had a serious talk. He said he was going to talk to her soon. You live close to them. Maybe you'd notice if he's acting weird? It's just that he's been avoiding talking to me." She sounded distressed. And in a weird way, I felt sorry for her. She was an adult, made bad choices, but she was being lied to. I answered honestly, "I don't know anything. I don't keep up with their stuff." But she kept pushing, almost every day. Sometimes early in the morning, around 8, while I was half asleep drinking coffee. Sometimes in the middle of the day at the office. Sometimes late at night. She wanted information, signals, clues, and I never had any. And every message from her reminded me that my dad wasn't just weak, he was a coward. Too cowardly to leave his wife. Too cowardly to end a secret relationship. Too cowardly to face any consequences. And I, stuck in the middle of that circus, was just more collateral damage. When the whole non-invite episode happened, everything changed. The humiliation from that conversation with my parents had me shaking with rage on the inside. And right in the middle of that anger, the mistress sent me another message asking, "Do you think he's going to talk to her before the event?" That's when it clicked. The event. The party I wasn't considered worthy to attend. The celebration of a perfect marriage. The perfect stage to pretend they were a united family. It was only then that the idea really showed up. What if she just showed up there? I tried to force that thought out of my head. I swear I tried. But the sentence kept looping in my mind. What if she showed up there? What if, for once in their lives, my parents were forced to deal with their own lies? I spent a few days wrestling with it. I paced back and forth in my apartment, talking to myself, trying to convince myself it wasn't my problem. But then I'd remember my mom calling me an embarrassment. I'd remember her laugh when I asked about the invitation. I'd remember my dad with his head down, too scared to defend me, as always. And then one simple thought cut through me. If no one has ever been loyal to me, why should I be loyal to them? That's when I started seriously considering the plan. On a Sunday afternoon, around 3, I texted my cousin, trying to sound casual. "Do you know where my parents' event is going to be?" She answered like it was nothing, without suspecting a thing. She sent me the venue name and the address. I stared at that message for a long time. It felt like something that, once sent, could never be taken back. I could delete the text. I could keep being the obedient background character of the family, but my whole body was screaming something else. I grabbed the mistress's number and typed, "The event will be here," and I sent the address. For a few seconds, I thought about sending another text, telling her not to go, to think it over, to stay out of it, but I didn't. I left it. Simple. Direct. Right after that, I tossed my phone onto the couch. My heart was racing. Between revenge and justice, I still didn't know which one I'd chosen. Maybe it was a bit of both. All I knew was that nothing about their perfect wedding celebration was going to go as planned. Update 1. My phone buzzed Monday morning while I was still trying to fully grasp what I'd just done. It was her, the mistress. The message was short, "Thank you, I'm going." And in that moment, it felt like something inevitable had started, with no way back. The party would be in the late afternoon, around 5, at that fancy venue in Seattle. I knew that because my cousin had described everything with so much excitement, like she was talking about a royal wedding. And while she talked, I pretended I didn't care. But of course I cared. Not about the event itself, but about what was going to happen there. The mistress didn't send any more messages that day. Not a "I'm here" or an "I'm on my way." Just silence. I tried to convince myself maybe she wouldn't go. Maybe she'd thought better of it. Maybe she'd pictured the humiliation. Maybe she was giving herself one last chance to walk away. Deep down, I knew she'd go. From the tone of the message she'd sent the day before, "I'm going." And when it was 4:45, I was already sitting on the couch, my hands sweaty, my phone on the table. I didn't want to look like I was desperately waiting for news, but I also couldn't take my eyes off it. The first message came from my cousin at 5:10. "Everything looks beautiful here. Your sister thinks she's the star of the show." I didn't reply. The second one came at 5:23. "Your mom is glowing. I don't think she's ever been this happy in her life." I felt a weird twist in my chest. Not jealousy, but that feeling of knowing they were there celebrating while I was treated like somebody who needed to be hidden, so I wouldn't ruin the performance. And then the third message came. "There's a strange woman at the door. She looks kind of nervous." My heart went ice cold. I typed, "What do you mean, strange?" But my cousin didn't answer right away. The next few minutes dragged on forever. I kept picturing the scene. My mom smiling with that rehearsed smile that fools anyone on the outside. And then, in the middle of it, the mistress walking in with the courage or the rage of someone who's already lost her dignity. I pictured her standing at the entrance, looking around, searching for the man who promised her a new life and delivered nothing. When my phone finally buzzed, my hands were shaking. "Oh my God," my cousin wrote, all caps. She walked in. More messages started coming, short and rushed. "Your mom went pale. Your dad tried to slip out through the side. The woman is crying and speaking loudly. People are recording." It was surreal. I wasn't there, but it felt like part of me was watching everything from inside someone else. Ever since I was a kid, I'd gotten used to being a spectator in my own family. Now, for the first time, I was watching from a distance, from a secret that had fallen into my lap without warning. The party was collapsing, and all I could do was imagine my mom's face, that silent horror mixed with hatred. It was always like that. She didn't get sad. She got offended. More messages. The woman said she's been with him for several years. "Your mom started yelling at your dad. He can't say anything. Caroline is freaking out, trying to get them to stop." It was like something inside me was saying, "That's it. The truth is finally doing what it needed to do." At the same time, another part of me said, "You triggered this. You gave her the address." Then came the longest message of all. "Your mom threw the bouquet on the floor. She pushed your dad. He's crying. Actually crying. I've never seen him like this. She kicked him out of the venue. Everyone's watching. It's chaos." I pictured my dad crying. That man who spent his whole life dodging conversations, conflicts, and emotional responsibility was now cornered in the worst scenario possible. And my mom, who always thought she had everything under control, was now being exposed in front of the audience she herself invited. My cousin sent another message. "They took your mom outside. She was shaking and passed out. I think they're going to end everything early." I didn't smile. I didn't celebrate. I didn't really know what I had done. Revenge? Justice? I woke up early the next day before 7. I grabbed my phone before even getting out of bed, and it was full of notifications. Messages from my cousin, missed calls from my dad, a voice message from my sister that I immediately deleted. The first thing I did was listen to my cousin's message. I don't even know where to start. "Your mom snapped, like, really snapped. She was screaming that the marriage was a lie, that she was being made a joke of in front of everyone. Your dad couldn't even talk. People tried to step in, but it got worse. She cried so much she passed out and they had to take her to the hospital. It was awful." I listened in silence. A few minutes later, my phone rang. It was my dad. I didn't want to pick up, but something in me, maybe curiosity, made me swipe to answer. He started talking way too fast, in a tone I'd never heard from him before. A mix of anger and desperation. "How could you do this to me?" were his first words. I stayed quiet. He went on, "I know it was you. You were the only one who knew. You're the only one who would have a reason to do this. You destroyed everything. Your mother won't talk to me. Your sister is in shock. Everyone knows what happened. People are talking. You ruined our family. Our family. What a bitter joke. Dad, you're the one who ruined it. I just stopped covering for you." He took a deep breath. "You think that's an excuse? You think exposing something like this, in that way, is normal? You need help. You always have. Your mother was right about you. You never..." That's when I cut him off. I couldn't take it. "Don't talk about my mom," I said, with a firmness that even surprised me. "Not when you spent almost a decade cheating on her. Not when you let me take moral beatings alone in that house. Not when you stayed silent every time she humiliated me. Not when you never lifted a finger to defend me." He went quiet. For the first time in the conversation, total silence. And I kept going. "You want to talk about destruction?" Destruction was watching myself grow up believing I mattered less because you never had the guts to open your mouth. Destruction is you promising love to another woman while pretending to be a model husband. Destruction is you thinking your daughter was obligated to protect your lie. His silence got even heavier. "I just wanted things to be okay. It didn't have to be like this." I shot back, "You had 8 years to do it the right way." The call ended there. I don't even know if I hung up or if he did. The hours that followed were a flood of information. My cousin told me my dad tried to go back home in the middle of the night, knocking on the door, begging to talk. My mom told him to leave, saying that it was never a real marriage anyway. He ended up going to a cheap motel off the highway. Soon after, my aunt, his older sister, called me, not to comfort me, not to ask how I was, but to complain. "Look, I know you all have your issues, but to expose it like that, your mother is devastated, and your father, well, he's here saying he doesn't have a home anymore. Couldn't you have tried another approach? Auntie, he's in the situation he created. I have nothing to do with that." She sighed like I was being heartless. "You know he's not good with hard decisions." "That's never been an excuse," I replied. Later, my cousin sent me another message. He left the motel and came to my house. My mom let him in because he was crying. That image, him crying, sitting on my aunt's couch, with no home, no marriage, no mistress, hit me in a way I didn't expect. By the end of the day, I was exhausted. I thought about everything. The party, the messages, the chaos, the screaming, the tears. Update 2. At the end of that week, I got another message from my cousin. She said, "He's worse. My mom thinks he might go into depression. He talks to himself, blames you, blames everyone. He won't leave the room. I don't know what's going to happen." It was like watching a chaotic reality show, except every character was someone who had hurt me in some way. And now I was watching everything from the outside. The divorce officially started on a Monday morning around 10 when my mom walked into a law office in Seattle with a folder full of documents and, according to my cousin, an expression that mixed hatred, wounded pride, and something she would never admit: fear. After all, for the first time in her life, she didn't know how to control what was happening. The first bomb dropped right at the preliminary stage. My mom demanded an absurd amount of alimony, so high it made my dad, already emotionally wrecked, refuse to sign anything. My cousin told me that in the first mediation meeting, he raised his voice, the only time anyone had ever seen that from him. "You're trying to leave me with nothing," he said, slamming his hand on the table. And my mom, with that superior posture she's always had, replied, "I want what I'm owed, what you took from me for 8 years. It was strange to think they'd spent half my life trading silent jabs, lukewarm conversations, and mechanical coexistence. And now they were throwing everything in each other's faces with no filter. And my sister, the golden girl, the star, the perfect daughter." The first update I got went like this: "Caroline is freaking out. Your dad cut off all her financial support. She said he promised to fund the business until it took off, but now he has nothing to give." I pictured the scene. My sister sitting on her huge bed, staring at bills she'd never had to pay before, not understanding why the world wasn't bending around her anymore. She'd always lived in a bubble created by my parents, the Princess Caroline bubble, the one who deserved everything, who had talent, who needed constant investment. Only talent doesn't pay rent, and praise doesn't pay vendors. Her business, an event planning service my parents funded without a second thought, was falling apart without my dad's money. My cousin told me my mom tried to help but couldn't. And she couldn't, because during the divorce process, my mom realized she couldn't keep the lifestyle she was used to. The house they rented? Too expensive. The weekly gardening service? Cut. The cleaning lady who came twice a week? Let go. My mom started looking for a cheaper place to live. Meanwhile, my sister was waking up to the real world. She tried hiring a cheaper team, tried offering smaller packages, tried everything. The problem? Without my dad funding it, she'd been in the red since day one. One night around 9, my cousin sent me a voice note, laughing quietly. "You're not going to believe this. Caroline is making a resume. A resume. She's asking my mom to help her write a professional summary because she's never had a real job in her life." I couldn't laugh. The perfect daughter, built over years of adoration and privilege, now having to face what I'd been facing since I was 19. Reality. While the money dried up, my parents' marriage dissolved, and my sister tried to support herself, The lawyers turned my parents' lives into a battlefield. My cousin described one of the meetings. They can't look at each other. He cries the whole time. She talks to him like she's talking to a dog. The most ironic part? Even now, in the middle of the mess, my mom was still trying to preserve appearances. She said she didn't want gossip, but it was too late. Half the family already knew, and the other half was making up even more dramatic versions. Some relatives said about me, "Poor Caroline. Her sister caused all of this. If that other girl wasn't so problematic, none of this would have happened. She's always been trouble since she was a kid." The storyline was perfect for them. Me, the scapegoat. Them, the victims. My dad, the poor man deceived by the mistress. My mom, the sainted, betrayed wife. My sister, the damsel who lost her business. But my cousin, my only ally, kept repeating, "They need someone to blame because it's easier than admitting their marriage was over years ago." Deep down, I knew she was right. And while all of this was happening, I stayed in Seattle, working, making my meals, paying my own bills, getting near daily updates. And I knew the worst for them still hadn't happened yet. The stories about my dad started to change tone a few weeks into the divorce. Before, he showed up in them as someone angry, guilty, trying to hold on to some control. After that, he became more like a shadow. My cousin would tell me things like, he spends hours sitting in the garage, staring at the floor. He slept on the couch again. He barely eats. My mom is worried. It was strange to hear that, because as much as I was angry at him, he'd never been a man who showed any emotion bigger than apathy. Suddenly, he was crying all the time, crying out of nowhere. Part of me wanted to ignore it all. Another part, a very old, childish part, that had always wanted to be seen by him, was trying to understand what that was. It was my cousin who told me about his attempt to go back to the mistress. She said he left the house one weekend around 10, telling my aunt he was going to settle unfinished business. Nobody knew what he meant, but my cousin suspected immediately and followed him without him noticing. And she was right. He went to the mistress's house, but she wouldn't open the door and told him to leave. He stayed there for over 20 minutes. Then he left, with zero dignity. That's what happens when a woman realizes, all at once, that she spent years believing in a promise that never existed. Meanwhile, my dad was getting more and more isolated. He didn't have a wife, he didn't have a mistress, he didn't have his own home, and he didn't have the courage to look at himself. One day my cousin texted me. He asked if he can stay here longer. My mom feels sorry for him, but she can't stand having him here anymore. A few months after all the chaos, the dust finally started to settle. My parents' divorce was finalized. My cousin told me they signed the papers in silence, each one staring at a different spot on the table. After that, my dad moved into a small apartment a few miles from my aunt's house. A simple place, according to my cousin, with a tiny kitchen and old carpet. My mom moved to a cheaper neighborhood still in Seattle. A smaller house, no big yard, no backyard full of decorations, none of that showy stuff. She still tries to keep up that strong woman who doesn't get shaken vibe, but my cousin said that sometimes she cries when she talks about being cheated on. She never admits it, of course. She probably says it's allergies or eye irritation, but she cries. Little by little, she's learning to live without my dad's money. She's cooking at home, buying cheaper stuff at the grocery store, saying, "I can't spend on that right now," for the first time in her life. And honestly, I think that's good for her. Her arrogance was always her favorite shield. Now she's having to face the fact that the shield broke. My sister, well, the perfect daughter had to face the real world. And the real world doesn't care about family favoritism. Her event business literally imploded. Without funding, everything turned into a snowball. Vendors, raised eyebrows from clients, canceled contracts. Now she works at a home goods store, according to my cousin, standing on her feet all day, helping people who don't even know how to pronounce her name. She hates it, of course, but she's doing it because there's no other option. My cousin said she's heard her say, "I can't believe my life turned into this." And I didn't say anything when I heard that, because my life turned into this a long time ago, and nobody cared. As for me, I'm still in Seattle. I'm still working, still paying my own bills. For a long time, I thought knowing the truth was a burden, but after everything, I realized it was a key that opened a door I didn't even know was locked, the door where I stopped blaming myself for everything. I won't lie, there was a part of me that wanted to see everything fall apart. There was another part that felt guilty about that, and another that just wanted things to finally be fair, for once. These days, I don't wish any of them harm, but I also don't carry the weight of trying to be a daughter, a sister, or an accomplice to a family that never really saw me. I just keep going, slowly, calmly, one step at a time.